Welcome to the mix. I'm ABD. Today we have an artist guitar to check out from Gibson. Some people might be familiar with Beato, who is a YouTuber. He was a professor. He was a music producer for a long time. And now he teaches on YouTube music appreciation and music theory. And he designed this guitar based on his favorite Les Paul double cut, which I believe is an old vintage guitar. His is in TV yellow, and they designed a new color for this guitar. They call it TV Blue Mist, which is basically their Pelham blue with a little bit of maybe a little bit of shine or sparkle to it. It's a satin finish, so it's soft to the touch, and the back is nice and smooth, and so it's not sticky in any way. It has a Graph Tech nut. It has a 12-inch radius, like most Gibsons. It has this neck tendon on the back, which is really tiny, or really short. And it has one cavity down here because the poker chip and switch selector is right there. And the specials, a lot of the time will have the one-piece bridge, the wraparound bridge, sometimes with the lightning bolt in it for intonation. Those are pretty terrible for that reason, to intonate and stay in tune. And in this case, we have a two-piece bridge, like you see on a lot of Les Pauls. You have two P90 pickups, and you have a pretty thick pickguard. It's a 5-ply pickguard, black, white, black pickguard, and witch hat black knobs. Rosewood fingerboard, which I think might be dyed a brown to look darker, like kind of like ebony, but it is not ebony. And it has mother of pearl dot inlays. It has black inlays on the side. The Rick Beato also has cream binding, which the specials don't always have. And I think that's all the specs. It has their big strap lock buttons that are flat. It's a little different than they put on some of their other Les Pauls. And the setup and the action is incredibly low. It's one of the most comfortable necks I've played on really any guitar. It's a slim taper neck, so it's nice and thin, but it somehow feels thinner than other slim taper necks that I've played from Gibson. I don't know if it's the satin finish that makes it feel that way, or maybe it is just a little thinner and they're not saying that. But it's an amazing feeling neck. The setup is great. All of the Gibson guitars have their frets plecked at the factory before they are shipped out, and if you don't know what that is, it's a machine that perfectly levels all the frets mechanically, so there's no inconsistencies to get the best setup possible, really. And other places do it too. Sweetwater has a plecking machine at their main office or main location in Indiana. And the tuners are vintage white tuners, Gibson deluxe tuners, and they are not that great. This is probably the weakest part of the whole guitar is these tuners. They look good, but they don't stay in tune that well, unfortunately. The nut is cut well. It's a Graph Tech nut, like I said before. The bridge was set up really well, the intonation from the factory, and I still have the plastic cover on the pickguard, so it might not look as shiny as it does when I take it off, but I have decided to not take it off yet. And the fretwork is really great. Towards the top it might get a little sloppy, but it looks great. And one of the only cons or negatives about the guitar is there was a hair under the Les Paul logo there, or silkscreen, or whatever you call it. And because it's satin, it's really noticeable. Like, it's actually raised and you can feel it. I think it's a hair, or it's something like that. But this very well may be one of the best, in my opinion, signature guitars ever made. Rick has had one, or been talking about it for about 2 years now, and ever since he's had it on his YouTube channel, I've been really adamant about wanting to try one. If you don't know about double cut Les Pauls, it's not a thing that Gibson does all the time. They did a few years ago do a run of really fancy double cuts that had flame tops and all of this cool stuff, and people didn't really want them. It turns out people want Gibson for their Les Paul, sometimes the SG, rarely an Explorer or a V, but people, for one reason or another, don't really dig the double cut, at least with the flame top and all of that fancy stuff. But a double cut special with the P90s is a really special guitar, and you really have a hard time getting one for less than a whole lot of money. They really only make one of these. It's a TV yellow, and it's a custom shop, and it's a whole lot of money. It's too much money. And in this case, they made it more affordable. But Rick and Gibson made only 500 of these at first, and they sold out, I believe, in an hour and a half. All 500. And the word is now that they're going to do another run. I don't know if they've already started doing that, if they've agreed to it, or they plan on doing it. I don't think any of that run has been released yet, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong. In the future, maybe they will do a Rick Beato in a TV yellow, but I feel like that defeats the purpose, maybe because they have that custom shop, or they might have they might end up offering something similar in the future if the people ask for it, because obviously they didn't expect this to sell as quickly or as well as it did, because they're making another run. Another thing about it is it's a little thinner than a standard Les Paul special, so it's lighter. There's no maple cap. It's all mahogany neck, mahogany body, with this breathable satin finish, which feels great, which Rick would tell you helps the tone of the wood breathe better, sing better, vibrate better, and there might be something to that. But again, one of the best feeling necks I've ever played, especially on a LP style guitar. It is a double cut, so I can't call it a single cut style guitar, but the double cut nature of the guitar allows you to get all the way up to these high frets really easily, because usually there would be a piece of wood here on a Les Paul that prevents you from reaching up there. And that's one of the reasons why Rick would tell you this is the guitar that he reaches for more often than anything else. It's 6.8 pounds. So the light, thin nature of the guitar allows it to be incredibly light. I have a Les Paul Classic Light, which is a thin body compared to a normal Les Paul, and it's still weight relieved, I believe. And that weighs 7.2 pounds, and this only weighs 6.8. So the difference might be that that's a little thicker, or the maple cap might weigh more. The binding probably weighs more. None of that on this. There's no binding on the body. There's no maple top. But I do believe this is one of the thinnest guitars Gibson has ever made. And it feels great because of that. It does not neck dive. We can do a strap test to demonstrate that it's really well balanced. It's one of the best balanced guitars I've ever played as well. And so I'm going to take this strap and demonstrate that. So it really will stay wherever you want to put it. It's such a light guitar in general that it doesn't want to go anywhere. And so even if I'm moving around a lot, it really does not want to neck dive. And it feels great. And it sounds really good acoustically as well. And I haven't tuned it in a couple days. Still sounds like it's in tune. And the shape and nature of the guitar, how light it is, it almost makes you, I never want to do this, but it almost makes you want to play it classically, which I find funny. I mean, you really kind of have to sit awkwardly to do that, but... So that is out of tune, so we can tune it up, and then we can plug it into a tube amp and a sim and a plug-in and see how it sounds. If you're ever using a tuner like this, a clip-on tuner on a Gibson guitar or a guitar with a nitro finish, you don't want to leave it on for too long because it could leave a mark, or it could start to break up the finish, and you don't want that, unless you do, which you might. So it has really nice sustain and a really sweet, beautiful sound. It's a nice piece of mahogany. It's a one-piece mahogany body. It looks great. Now we can plug it into a tube amp and see what that sounds like. We have some pedals on the floor. We will see how those sound, and then we will plug it into Neural DSP Nolly and get some more tones that you can expect from a DI plugin. So we're going to go to the neck. So that's on the neck. I'm a firm believer that P90s are some of the best pickups you can get. They are, or you can play, or you can experience, or you can listen to. They are basically big single coil pickups that are voiced like a humbucker, and so you do get feedback because there's no noise canceling like a humbucker, but you get so much definition and punch and clarity that you don't really get from a humbucker, and sweetness. I'm going to, that's all on the neck. I'm going to go to the middle position. And the bridge. Back to the neck. I'm a big fan of the neck pickup on a P90 guitar. I'm going to try it with a fuzz. Cool. A compressor. So, one thing that you'll notice about this guitar, or you'll learn about P90 guitars, is the dynamics are really phenomenal. So you really want to, when you're playing one, you really want to dig in and pop those notes and bend those notes, and you feel it in the output of the pickups. There's a lot of dynamics, and in my opinion, I think it sounds fantastic. Some people don't like P90s just because of the feedback. They don't like all the dynamics because they might want everything to be a little more compressed and even if they're playing like chugging metal or a lot of different styles, pop music. But in this case, they're incredibly dynamic and sweet sounding. I'm playing everything with my fingernails. I'm going to do a tube screamer just because. Bridge. Cool. Now we can try a rat distortion or a little rat. A little rat. That's loud. Back to the neck, and let's try some analog chorus from MXR. that was a little bit of chorus. We can try an envelope filter now for a little funk. That's too much fun. That's the Electro-Harmonix Qtron, Micro Qtron, which is a great pedal. So that's more of the dynamics that I was talking about earlier. Incredible dynamics you get out of P90 pickups because they're single coils, but they're huge. They're like gigantic single coil pickups. So that was a bunch of pedals through a tube amp. Now we could try plugging it in DI. So now we can try plugging it into Neural DSP Nolly to hear some direct input simulated amp goodness. So this is default, and there's a lot of feedback, but that's okay. So it is not really a chug machine, but it's not terrible for chugging, but you don't really, usually go for P90 single coil pickups for that sort of chugging tone, but you can still get away with something with a lot of feedback. Cool. Let's try a different setting or something cleaner. Clean chords is the setting. try a different preset or a different amp. Let's see what else, other kind of sounds we can get. Crisp, this one's called. American woman, stay away. American woman, let me play. Keep on knocking around my door. I don't wanna see your face no more. No woman, stay away. American woman, come and let me play. So as you can see, it sounds really good, clean, and it sounds really nice, crunchy. It sounds okay on ultra high gain. There's a lot of feedback because they're single coil pickups, but the neck does it does kind of ask you or want you to shred it. At least this one does. It's not, you know, you're an ultra modern metal neck. It doesn't have a 16-inch radius. It's not a, you know, a wizard neck like Ibanez or anything like that. But it's a really fast playing, great sounding instrument. And I feel like it was worth the wait. Like I said, I was waiting a long time for this instrument to try it out. And the other thing about this guitar that I should mention is Rick didn't want to do any sort of endorsement deals with Gibson. So it was kind of a back and forth with Rick and Gibson to get him to do this guitar, to sign on to it. And he finally decided to do so if his portions of the money would go to music education instead. So Rick is not really making any money on this, and instead he's donating it. And so I'm going to leave a link in the description to where you can also donate to music education, and Rick's YouTube channel, which you should definitely check out because he is great. You should subscribe and watch all of his videos because he deserves everything. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're trying to get one of these, it might be difficult for a little while. They're going on a reverb for almost twice as much as they are new. But they are supposed to do another run, so maybe just wait, and you could probably get in on that run coming up. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Rick, for this really cool guitar. And take care. Rock on. See you later. One thing I forgot to mention is if you do get a Gibson, they always have a wonderful smell to them. The lacquer, the nitro, I don't know what they do. Some people say they spray cologne in the case, but it's an amazing smell. I know.